It's time for a very special Steelers edition of Hard Questions. Here to answer some of our tough questions about the game and the game of life. On my panel today are Steelers legends J.T. Thomas, who played from 1973 to 1981, won four, count them, four, Elkin, Mr. Pounds.
It's close. It's close.
Close enough for now?
Right, yeah, you're good.
Who played from 1980 to 1992.
Who has, if you notice my fingers, there are no Super Bowl rings on that one.
Well, we're going to keep going. And current player with the Steelers, Arthur Moats. Arthur, we're so glad that you're here with us.
Man, I appreciate you.
And we're glad that you could be with us.
None either.
Well, you're not. Yeah, you're still playing.
Work in progress, though.
Yeah, work in progress.
There we go.
And Bill Stern, who's the founder of For Men Only Ministry here in the Pittsburgh region. This is a special time for me, guys. You know, I'm enjoying this, and I'm enjoying our talk. And our first question comes to us, and here's the question. Why do people love the game of football so much?
Well, I guess I'll start it off.
Start it off.
I feel like, you know, it's the ultimate competitive sport. You know, it's not like a basketball where you can have just one dominant player take over and win a game for you. Think about Jordan, for example, and you think about baseball, you could have a pitcher who's just lights out, and you will never lose with him. In football, all 11 guys have to be playing in one accord every snap for you to be successful. And I feel like that's what people love the most about it, just the camaraderie, having to depend on one another. And, you know, it makes it that much more special.
Why do the fans like it?
Man.
I mean, the fans are just they're number one game in the nation.
Because it's intense, because you're watching the train wreck. I always say that the greatest thing about playing in the National Football League is that you get paid to do what you'd get thrown in jail for if you did on the street.
That's very true.
I mean, you talk about a release, you talk about intensity, you talk about physicality. I mean, hitting someone, now someone's calling in for prayer for me right now, I can tell that. But there's something about hitting somebody and playing that physical toughness game, and what's great about it is when you play football, you challenge yourself every day. And now as a fan, watching it, I like to see other men challenged every day.
Do you like the game? You still watch the game?
Yeah, well, you know, I do TV and I cover the Steelers for TV and radio, and I do the games on radio. So I'm at every Steeler game, and I'm at most of their practices and at training camp. So I get to watch guys like Arthur and how hard they work. And so, yeah, I'm still very close to the game. So I'm still engaged, and I'm not only physically, I'm still emotionally engaged because I'm still a Steeler fan.
Yeah. Well, JT?
Yeah, I think men like the sports, and I think you have to think about it, what contact does. Whenever you contact someone and get close to someone, there's a transmission of identity. And think about when you hit someone, if you punch someone in the face, there's an identity transfer, but only, but on a serious way, when you get to know people, as a football player, when you hit someone, you see their fear, their anxiety, their tenacity, and there's a lot of communications going on with proximity that we're not aware of, and I found through sports, people know each other. So we really, you can't hide on the football field. In life, we have a lot of facades. There, who you are comes out, and I know you, and I don't know your name.
Do you still like the game? You still watch it?
I never loved football, but I love the strategy. You know, it was kind of it's like a cat and mouse game. So I love that aspect of the game, but I never loved the game per se. Yeah.
You never loved it?
No, I didn't. No.
You know,
I was when I got drafted, I was asleep, and I was number one draft choice with no agent.
You went to sleep.
I was asleep during the draft.
Man, he's got his priorities right. Got to get my sleep in.
I had no agent.
No agent. Well, what about women? Can I get the man watching the physicality and the man-to-man kind of combat type of deal? Why do women like to watch the game of football?
To be with their men? No, I don't know. You know what? I will say this, that there is an unbelievable number of die-hard Steeler women fans. I mean, I've worked the Steelers women fantasy camp, and there are hundreds of women show up to go through the drills, to get run, to learn how to catch. And it is, I mean, it is crazy. And probably in Pittsburgh more than any other city, Steeler fans that are women are probably the most knowledgeable women football fans in the world here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Yes. And black and gold is the city color. Right. I mean, so black and gold is the city color. But you mentioned just a minute ago that football's a team sport. Sometimes I wonder about that. If it isn't, I think that was what you were talking about.
Yes,
but isn't it individual, man-to-man, one-on-one?
Definitely is.
It impacts.
Yeah.
So is it both an individual game and a team game?
Very true. It's both, like you said, individual and team. But at the same time, the team part outweighs the individual part. Because like I said, you can have, you can play your best game. You can beat your guy every snap. But if I'm over there getting destroyed, it doesn't matter. So if all of us aren't on the same page, if all of us aren't having success together, then we're never going to be successful as a team. And that's the beauty of it. You have the pull of, man, this guy's individually great, but how's the team?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because it impacts the team. What's your fondest or greatest memory of playing in the game?
Go with the 4-time Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's got the bling.
You got the ring on. Tell us a memory.
I think one of the best memories were the AFC Championship game against Oakland, going to our first Super Bowl, Super Bowl IX. For 40 years, the Steelers hadn't won a Super Bowl. And Oakland, as you know, was a rivalry, a very tough game. And that particular game probably was the highlight of, I guess, my career, because what happened, in the closing second of the game there, I intercepted a ball off Kenny Stabler and kind of tried to run with the ball for a little bit and tripped, and Jack Ham jumped on top of me to make sure the ball don't, kind of cover me up. And I think that was the key point. Even then, we wasn't sure we had won it. Coming back on the plane, Jack Ham sitting on the back, he said, "Did we win the Super Bowl? I mean, the game." I say, "I don't know." He said, "We went to the Super Bowl." I say, "I think so." So that was a moment that I'll never forget.
Yeah, we were playing in '89. The wild card round in Houston, and we had that was a crazy year because we lost our first game 51-0 to Cleveland, then 45-10 next week versus Cincinnati, and so we had one of those up and down years. And then down the stretch, we went on a roll, won our last 4 games. We lost twice to Houston, and that was during the days. I don't know if you remember when Chuck Noll almost got into it with Jerry Glanville when he was poking him in the chest, and they were shaking hands. So they were calling the Astrodome the House of Pain. And the Oilers, man, would talk they talked more trash. And, Glanville used to light a fire under those guys' tails, and they loved to talk trash. And so they did a good job of it. So we're down there. We play 60 minutes hard, going to overtime. In overtime, Gary Anderson kicks a 51-yard field goal to win the game for us. So we're going to the divisional round in Denver, and those guys were all on the ground after that field goal crying. And I don't talk trash, but I couldn't resist. I was in their ear, "House of Pain, baby, how bad does it hurt?" That's all I kept saying was "House of Pain." And I remember because they were so confident and having beat us twice that year, and we went down there to win. That was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had.
That's got to be a memory that you always hold on to. Yeah. How about you playing in the game now?
Yeah, well, for me, man, I always like to split my best memories up into my individual and my team. For me, my favorite individual moment would definitely be my rookie year when we was playing Minnesota and I had the hit on Favre. And, it wasn't necessarily just me hitting him and, ending the consecutive streak. It was just the fact that it put me on a bigger scale. People started to know my name. That was my first time being on ESPN. So from the individual standpoint, it was man, I'm professional now, I'm becoming a star, that type of feel. And my favorite team memory was definitely this year. It would have been when we won the division. And the reason I say that is because I've had success at the collegiate level. High school, I've had success, but I had never won at the NFL level. 4 years in Buffalo, the most games we had won in a season was 6. So for me to come here and that's to win the way we were winning, especially used to have an up and down year, and then to win the division the way we did at the end of the year, it was just an amazing feeling for me just to finally be able to win something professionally as a team,
Yeah.
So from that aspect of it, that would definitely be my favorite, team moment.
It's good to have those both.
Yeah.
We just got a couple minutes in this segment, but I got to ask you, I loved the Super Bowl this year. Loved watching the Super Bowl. And I want to ask, what happened in your mind? You guys are players. You understand the game a lot better than I. Why didn't they hand that ball off in Seattle's? Who can answer that? Who's got the wisdom to answer that question? Nobody's going to
Pete, you know, Pete Carroll's still asking himself that same question. Why didn't we hand it off to the beast?
Was it a contract thing, or was it?
I don't think.
My thing is, you can look at the argument from a statistical standpoint, and they were talking about how statistically during the season, they haven't had that much success on the 1 yard line when it comes to running the ball. And they've shown moments where Russell Wilson has thrown a pass play down there and they've had success. But then, you know, of course, hindsight being 2020, it's like, yo, he just ran. Marshawn just had a 5-yard run. Prior to that, why not give it to him again? They call him beast mode for a reason. And me personally, I played against him and I played with him. So for me, it's like, man, I don't care who's out there on defense. Give that man the ball. He's going to get 1 yard. I don't care if you don't even block for him. He's going to get the 1 yard. And that's the type of player he is. But like I said, man, nobody knows.
What? You got any wisdom?
Well, one thing about, you know, there's, I don't know, 60 some odd plays, you know, in a game, and you always go to one play. You know, I can hold up a lot of plays, and that situation will never happen. But we come down to the last play and say, that was the play. That was the straw that broke the camel back. Was it? You know. So I think any play looked at differently, you could blame any play. Yeah.
But when you lose a close game, and you guys know this, you can't help but replaying every single play that you didn't make or you could have made better where you went, it's just the nature of the game. So he's right. There are, you know, 100 some plays in a game, but a lot of times it's that one play where you're going to remember for the rest of your life.
Well, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about what it means to be a champion. Each of you guys are champions. Now, whether you have a ring on or not, that's not the sign of a champion. Of course, you got 4, but other than that, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about what it means to be a champion, and champion in life and champion in the game. And again, I'm so glad you're here with me to talk about the game of life and the game of football here in Pittsburgh. We'll be right back. We're talking football. We're talking about the game that parodies life in many ways. It does in many ways. And my question is, what does it take to be a champion in the game of football? Who wants to start with that?
Go with JT, because he knows what it's like to be a champion.
What's it take to be a champion?
I think the key is to be flexible, but also to be able to change. A championship is about changing. Can I change? Can I adapt? And really, more so in circumstances. Typically, you're talking about have faith in yourself, but, faith always has contradictions. And how do I deal with those contradictions? When I believe in myself, believe in what we're doing, how do I deal with those contradictions? And I think a champion deals with contradiction, but he realized that I have to change. One of the phrases that Chuck Noll always used, you never arrive. And you never, so you become very, you're often satisfied but never contented. And I think that's one of the marks of a champion.
Well, let me define champion, because as I said earlier, it's not about how many rings you got.
Right.
It's about the level you're able to rise up to with the gifts and talents that you've been given.
Right.
And I think anybody that plays in the NFL has risen to a champion level. If you've just played one season in the NFL, I think you've come up to 3% of all college players gets that opportunity. So that's a champion level athlete in my estimation. But in life championship is a different kind of, what's the parallel though? To get to where you got to, how do you parallel that in life?
I think that it's the old adage, are you all in? Are you all in as a football player? There's two kinds of people that play in the National Football League. There are those who love football, and there are those who love to be a football player. Now, those two things sound the same, but they're really different. The guy that loves football, he's all in. Film, he's watching film, he's doing the extra work, he's doing the lifting, he's taking care of his body, he's staying off, he's staying in at night, he's just focused on being the best football player he can. It's kind of like following Christ. When Jesus called Andrew and Peter, he said, follow me and I will teach you to be fishers of men. So God invites us on this great adventure to be part of what he's doing here on work. And so Peter and Andrew were all in. I mean, they were fishermen. They were fixing their nets. And what they do? They left them. They left everything to follow hard after Christ. And for me, I think what it means to be a champion in life is to be all in.
Brother.
Yeah, to be a champion in life, I think I was told a long time ago that when you fall, get up again. Get up again. You know, the Ecclesiastes 4:9 and 10 it says, if I fall and I have no one there to pick me up, then that's sad. But coming alongside another brother and going through life, being a champion, getting up again, everybody's going to fall. But I think the thing that really made me a champion in my life is Jesus Christ. When I made that commitment to turn and give my life to Him, that was being a true champion. I think guys need to know that they need to come to Christ, and that's where it all starts, right there.
Well, if you think about this, let's keep football on the front burner here to say you're in a team sport.
Right.
Are you in a team sport in your faith?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah, definitely.
How does that work?
Definitely.
Well, God calls us to lock arms. You know, I mean, we are there as, you know, the Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so shall one man sharpen another. And so God calls us to His team to lock arms with one another, to help and encourage one another, to challenge one another, to lift each other up, to pray for one another, and to do life together. I mean, the beauty of football, you know, there are no Lone Rangers, and there are no Lone Rangers in life, and there's definitely no Lone Rangers in the body of Christ.
Yeah, I think the parallelism is humility. You have to humble yourself in your life to Christ, and also the same way in sports. It's not about you. You know, matter of fact, you really decrease. There's a reduction. That's a constant reduction, and that's why we don't like this book here, because when you read it, you find out that you're probably a worse Christian today than you were yesterday, because you've been exposed again. And I think part of being a champion in life or in sports is exposure, being willing to be exposed and to be humble. Yeah.
To be humble.
Yeah, you got to be humble.
Yeah.
This idea that as a Christian, I'm part of a team, may be alien to a lot of the people that are watching the program.
Yeah.
You know, maybe alien. Maybe they don't have a team that's around, and maybe their family's their team, perhaps. But men many times we just kind of pull ourselves out, and we just do work.
Yeah.
You know, we just do work. So if someone's watching this program about life and football and being a champion, how do you get on a team, or how do you even identify that place?
You know, I think that one of the things that men, and I fell into this trap too, was that men think to come to God, we have to somehow get our life together. And but when you really understand who Christ is and who we are in Him, we realize that none of us have our lives together. So to JT's point, we come in humility, we come in our brokenness, we come desiring God, and we find mercy and love and this desire for one another among other men. And so when you know when you see a body of men together, and they're loving each other, and they're praying for one another, it is attractive. I tell people I always fell in love with the body of Christ before the person of Christ. And it was what I saw on the Steelers from a number of men who loved Jesus and loved each other and loved me. And invited me to be a part of what was happening on that team. You know, when Jesus said, "By this all men will know that you're my disciples, that you would love one another." And that was very true in my life. I was very attracted to that.
To that unity.
To that unity.
Now, you said earlier that the Steelers were, you had the 3 Ps about the championship seasons.
Yeah, matter of fact, I think if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't have won.
Well, tell the folks at home what those 3 Ps
Well,
are.
basically what happened, we always, you know, we played together. And there's one time that, you know, that's all we did. Because when I came to the Steelers in '73, we were a segregated ball club. You have to understand, we come right out of the '60s, in the early '70s. So we played together, that was it. And what happened, Jack Ham and a couple of guys, but who really brought us together from the prayer was a guy named Hollis Half. Hollis Half brought us together in prayer, and there was a guy named Dr. Von Nixon who started having parties at his house and invite 90% of the players and their family after games to enjoy ourselves after games. So now we not only playing together, Hollis got us, praying together, and Dr. Nixon got us partying together. And when you get people in that environment, I think you do awesome things. And the other thing about, like you said about, in a team, we have a lot of guys that had issues, and you know my issues. Like I said, the contact, when we contact, you know me. But I got issues, and he got a Bible. Well, he got the same issues I got, but he got a Bible. So you can see what connects us, because I think one of the disservices we do as Christians, we parade ourselves like we got it all together. And people say, why you go to church? Well, the church is a hospital. And I'm going there every Sunday because I'm sick. And I think we don't present the church as a hospital. We present it as a country club where I have arrived in life. And I'm going to church on Wednesday and Sunday because, I'm sick. I got issues. And I think when men realize, wait a minute, you got issues too? And they see, oh, well, I think that breaks down the wall of fear, because men want to be in a team. We like team. And you keep in score, and they find out you keep scoring here, you can get them. If you keep in score in any event, get men coming.
Do we keep score?
We keep scoring. Yeah, that's the score here.
The Bible's our scorebook.
Christ, camaraderie, competition, and confidentiality.
That's right. Say that one more time.
Christ, camaraderie, the locking of arms. The focus is Jesus. Competition, because guys like to compete. You put them in a competitive, man, they want to play in hoops, softball, it doesn't really matter. And then confidentiality, that we need that confidentiality, that we can't, when we come in our brokenness and we confess, hey, brother, this is what I need prayer for. That's got to stay there. And that's what makes men want to come and lock arms, and that's where you see the richness of the body of Christ, of men coming together and living for Christ and for one another.
Well, when you said the body of Christ a couple times in the program, explain to our folks watching what you're meaning when you say the body of Christ.
Well, God has brought all with different giftedness and different talents, and we are a body, a functioning body. And so, I think that when people look sometimes as JT was saying, when you look at the church, you kind of go, what's really going on there? But when you see men and women, in our case, men, because women are attracted to church, I think naturally, men are not.
Right, that's right.
But when men come into the church and they see transparency and they see brokenness, they want it, to JT's point, wow, you got issues? Me too, brother.
But how are they going to know that?
Well, you know what? It's up to us to go find them.
To recruit.
We'll recruit them. Yeah.
And I think be open and honest. That's the key. We can't masquerade the fact that I've arrived, because basically we got the same issue. I can go most places, if I'm talking about me, I'm talking about every man in that building. Now, you may portray your issues different because your mother raised you different. Your mother had time out and mine had a backhand. But for the most part, we have the same issues. And I think when men find that out, that they have team, they have company, they open up.
Well, you just said that men don't like to go to church. Why is it? Why is it that men don't like to go to church?
I personally feel that men by nature, we want to be, tough. We don't want to ever appear to be weak in any aspect of it. But when you go to church and you're opening up, you're vulnerable now. Right. People are able to see your true emotions. People crying in church and things like that. As a man, you don't want to cry. Right. I don't want you to know that I'm emotional about this, that I'm hurt about this. Exactly. And I feel like that keeps a lot of men away from the church, and it keeps a lot of men, away from ultimately understanding the love of Christ and understanding that when you open up, and like you said, if I open up and you open up, well, now I'm not crying by myself. You with me,
Right. I
got help with me, and that's the camaraderie part.
See, that's the deal.
If men get a team, they go along with it. They have to get on the team.
That's what I like about what you guys are doing in men's ministry, pulling the team together in two different churches, but doing that in a way that's very focused and specific, and not just absorbing everybody into the sanctuary necessarily. I think that's a great thing. You know, in this game of life, there are rings when they're given out. You know, there are championship rings. The Bible talks about crowns. You know, when you're speaking of competition, when we're not competing with each other, but we are in a battle and in a war. And as we're obedient to God, the Bible promises that He will give to us a crown of life. And in that crown of life, see, there's some jewels in that ring right there.
Definitely.
There's jewels in that crown of life that God's going to give to us. We don't do it for it. You didn't do what it took to get that ring for the ring.
No.
But the ring was a benefit of what you did. And so in our life, brothers, as we go forward in obedience to God, find the team that He has for you. He has a place for each one of them. A place for your husband, a place for your son, a place for you to be on God's team. Then, and only then, will you be able to learn how to be a champion of the Spirit, a champion in life, a champion with your family, and you'll see what God will do. We challenge you as your brothers to step up and get involved, find your team, find your position, and play hard. Get up when you get knocked down, and watch what God's going to do with your life. Thank you, guys.
Great to be
God
with you, brother.
bless
God
you.
bless you, too.
God bless
God
you.
bless
Thank you, brothers. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
What a blessing it is to have you.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.